If you're Brazilian, already advanced in English, and you want an American accent or closer to it, then I want to show you what I'm working on to help my clients better to do exactly that. So this is the web app that I'm building. I learned how to program mostly to be able to build this for my clients, because the way that I was helping them was like, Google Docs, send them lists of words and things, and it just wasn't very efficient. So I started making some custom software so I can give clients accent feedback more efficiently, more effectively. And I want to show you what I've built so far. So for instance, here's one client who gave me permission to share his audio with you. We can hear it. Click on any word to hear it.
I'm a senior software engineer, so special sorts of technical.
There's keyboard shortcuts to jump around and stuff too. But what I want to show you is if I mouse over different words, you can see what I've manually, so not AI, but me as a human expert, if you want to call me an expert, annotating what I'm perceiving in their accent relative to my accent or a so-called general American accent. So for instance, the word senior, they kind of deleted the last syllable. They kind of, where there should be a hidden Y sound, they kind of didn't do that sound. And where there should be a R sound towards the end, they kind of didn't do that sound. Let's see if we can hear that.
Senior software engineer. I'm a senior software engineer.
To me, it sounds almost like scene soft engineer. So then in software, they deleted that entire syllable as well. And I annotated it kind of differently in the two words, but you get the rough idea. The key is not for this to be perfect. It's just for it to be useful. So if a client sees this, they could then notice, oh yeah, maybe I'm kind of cutting off the ending of these two words. I need to pronounce them more clearly. And specifically when it comes to pronouncing them more clearly, it looks like there might be a Y, even if I don't see the letter Y, that there's a Y sound and there's an R sound that I need to do better with. And then I also want to show you, as I annotate things start kind of floating to the top on the right here in the statistics. So like this kit target vowel sound, you might know this better as like what I wrote as sick versus seek, or bitch versus beach, shit versus sheet. Those are like the classic issues that a lot of Brazilians struggle with. Many foreigners in general, but I focus on Brazilians. So, but yeah, many Brazilians struggle with this. So if we want, we can filter and see just those words where that was an issue that I annotated. So like Brazil, this person, if they wanted to say like I say it, could say Brazil, ill, but they did more like EU, EU. So it's both this sick versus seek issue and this dark L versus o issue. So o, EU, ill. Yeah, like that. And then in city, they did something like CD instead of city. Same thing in meetings and with, and we can click into these again to hear them. So like, and I think I technically have to click maybe a word or two before, because the alignment behind this transcript is a little bit off. That varies from transcript to transcript. I'm improving that over time. But let's hear the word with.
Things with the data, things with the things with the.
So you can kind of hear he's doing weave. So instead of a like we, he kind of did we, we. And then the TH also got substituted and came out more like an F. Weef, weef. Let's hear that again.
Things with the things with.
Whereas I would say with, things, meetings with, and so on. So then this client can take these and they have a list of words they can practice that they specifically messed up to some extent. And they can practice these individually as words. They can practice them in the original phrases they came from, or they could throw these into ChatGPT and make custom word lists, or they can go and look at some of the things I've already prepared to help practice. But kind of the core of the web app is this here, to review a given audio that they sent me, even if it's just 2 or 3 minutes long, and see some detailed human expert feedback. Does that make sense? If you think this could be valuable for you to get this kind of feedback, then consider joining my mentorship group, because that's where I'm using this app, just with my paid clients in my mentorship group. And because in addition, to this app, we have a Zoom call in a group format twice a month where I go and do kind of hot seats and analyze people's accents live, give people feedback and coaching with whatever they might need. So not just a random course where you watch a ton of videos and stuff, but just specific feedback to each person based on what they need in that moment. Kind of picking my brain based on my experience learning Portuguese for 20 years and trying to sound like a native there, and Spanish and some other languages. Yeah, so we meet up twice a month via Zoom. They've got the WhatsApp group as well for any questions between calls. And then now they've got this app to help give better feedback, and I'm growing it over time. There's going to be a V2 that I'm working on. We're going to make some improvements, but already I'll show you some of the other stuff in here too. Some word lists. So for like a fleece target vowel, or a KIT target vowel. And these are like code words. They're called lexical sets. So instead of saying short I or like an IPA, International Phonetic alphabet symbol, I'm referring to it with this code word. So the KIT vowel sound. So I said it like eh. And this is just to point out that the same sound could have many different spellings. English is kind of crazy like that, but this is a way to start exploring that and to start thinking through that. And then if you want to hear how it sounds, you could put any of these into Youglish, but we could also, and I'll hopefully add some more interactive links and things, kind of integrate these different pages into one maybe over time. I've got a lot of ideas to make this app better. But you can also go to this vowel sounds page and hear how I say it. So like KIT, you can hear hit, bit, bit. You can hear recordings I did at the same frequency, like the same pitch, to try to make it easier to compare and contrast. Hey, who, hand, and kind of go back and forth. You can also go to a vowel synthesizer. I got to update the CSS there, but should look about like this. And you can test out how these different targets are. Again, it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's useful. I'm going to make it better and better over time. Group accent stats, so you can see from the back end, which is currently Airtable, but I'll switch over to Postgres if you're someone who's more technically inclined. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But basically, this is a bunch of stats across many of my different clients, many different audios. And we can see that so far, sick versus seek is floating to the top as the most commonly annotated issue. We can see a bunch of words where that's been annotated. And we can also see, I added in a couple Instagram videos that if you want to get some quick tips about how to improve that issue or to understand it better, you can watch some of my Instagram videos. Some of them more popular, some of them maybe kind of a little more hidden, less commonly seen. But I've pulled those out of my 3,000 plus Instagram videos to pick some of the ones that might be useful for each issue. Not all of them have them. I'm adding them in over time, but I've added in at least one. In some cases, there's multiple for some of the most common issues, especially, and kind of randomly throughout. And then things that are coming down the path, V2 and beyond. I want to create like a success path, like a way you can visualize your journey through different sounds, maybe customized to you. I want to create some more interactive testing and training or quiz type stuff within the app. And another thing would be to start involving AI and machine learning a bit. I still love keeping this focus of a human expert in the loop, so myself and maybe someday hiring other accent coaches, but that's further in the future. Right now it's just me with a small number of clients in a selective group program, and I like that it's got that human touch and it's me personally reviewing. But with that said, I still think in the background with what I'm doing, I can start using AI and ML to make things a little more efficient on my end, but make sure that I'm still curating and reviewing and selecting and often manually clicking and adding things like this. And I can remove that one now because it's not real, but I like that human touch. But yeah, I want to add in some stuff to make things more efficient on my end. And also I think it'd be cool to get more real-time AI feedback. There's a lot of AI apps out there, and oftentimes the AI feedback is good, but not perfect. So that's one of the things about the human feedback here versus AI feedback is I think there's a meaningful difference there still. As AI gets better, it'll go away. But yeah, maybe I'll add in some real-time AI feedback because even though it's not perfect, it's great to get really quick feedback, even if it is imperfect. Another thing in V2 is right now I'm annotating at the word level. So you can see it's like, okay, Y versus missing R versus missing R. We know that happened in this word, but we don't know exactly where in the word it happened. And if there's an issue that happened multiple times in the same word, like if they did sick versus seek multiple times in the same word, I don't know, like in business, arguably it's the first syllable and the last syllable both have a KIT vowel. And if I want to annotate that twice, it's kind of hard to do it twice with the current way the data is structured. But in V2, I want to do sub-word annotation, and so that I can map it to individual letters, individual phonetic symbols, whatever we want to do at a sub-word level. And that'll make things even better. And I also want to do a green, yellow, red stoplight system so that we can start to see ultimately why does this stuff matter. So the problem that V1 is solving is see what you messed up and how to fix it. And I think I've done that decently well. I think it's meaningfully useful. And then part of what V2 or maybe beyond is going to try to help solve is to help see if you actually improved. And not just with some hand wavy stuff or just AI, where you don't really know if you can trust it, or you get just a percentage and you don't know if it's like statistically significant. But to try to bring some more rigor to it and to be able to say, okay, from when you join the program at time 0 to 1 month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later, whatever it is, to be able to compare a something with a meaningful sample size, whether it's 2 minutes of speaking or 20 minutes of speaking, whatever it needs to be, where we can say, okay, you did X number of T sounds and Y% of them were green, passing as native, and this percent were red, definitely not passing as native and very far off, and this percent were yellow, kind of in between, like kind of a light accent, and some sort of grading system that is that we can then compare two different time points and say, okay, time 1 versus time 2, there's a meaningful, statistically significant difference, kind of like A/B testing in marketing or whatever, but applied to accent or from the academic world, whatever. I'm learning about stats so that we can hopefully have something decent along those lines. Because right now, if I give you 2 different audio analyses, you can see that I picked out a handful of salient, however you want to say that, accent targets or issues, but it doesn't tell you how many opportunities for T there were. And so you don't know your rate. And you also don't know if I marked every single one you got wrong, and you don't know how wrong they were. So it's useful, but it doesn't really tell you like a rate, and then it's hard to compare versus another audio. It's kind of apples to oranges. So I want to make it more apples to apples so that we can say, hey, your T was at 50% green, and this other audio a month later or 6 months later or whatever, now it's at 95% green, and we have enough confidence, we can say it's a statistically significant change that we can say we can be meaningfully confident that it's not just noise or random variation, but that you actually improved, there's a real change, and that it was in the positive direction, you improved. So that's what I'm working on building. Again, if you'd like to have someone who's going deep into the technical side of things like this, helping you with your accent, if you're Brazilian and you're advanced in English and you want to get an American accent or closer to it, there's you can go to simpleamericanaccent.com, and there should be a link on there to apply, or you could go to the link in my bio on my Instagram page at Simple American Accent. Any questions, just let me know. Hopefully this was helpful.